It's the Swole Patrol podcast. Swole Patrol, calling all members of the Swole Patrol. It is the Swole Patrol podcast. Oh, yes. With me, Mike Hathaway, and Dr. Drew Pinsky. It's fantastic.
It's the best intro I've ever heard.
Wow. It's up there, right?
Wow. Fantastic.
Thank you. Dr. Drew Pinsky, board-certified physician, addiction medicine specialist, and super buff guy. He is here. I am Michael D. Catherwood. Welcome to the Swole Patrol. Our guest today is one of the greatest American Highlands Games competitors ever. He is a handsome fella.
Nice.
And has a 600-something pound deadlift.
Recently pulled 600, recently squatted 5, and benching around 4. So
God damn.
As exciting as that all is.
He is Matt Vincent. Thank you for joining us, dude.
Yeah, man. Stoked to be here.
Tell for people who are not familiar, which I would imagine is the majority of people in general. What are the Highland Games?
So the Highland Games are kind of a legendary Scottish ancient athletic that they would do for clan challenges and things like this. So there's a period of time whenever England had essentially taken over Scotland and then got rid of all their weapons, and so that they would do different challenges amongst different clans to train for battle without using weapons. So they did stone throwing, they did some weight throwing, they did hammer throwing, and then the caber is the one everyone knows. It looks like the telephone pole, stuff like that.
I've been to Highland Games in the Highlands.
In Scotland.
In Scotland. And isn't there a willy, too? Isn't that a shoe or something?
So they do a welly throw, but that's typically for gals out of the crowd.
Is that right?
Stick with the heavy athletics.
I just thought it was so bizarre. Was it a shoe or something?
Yeah, a welly.
I thought that was
just a rubber boot.
It's so bizarre. They throw a boot. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, they do that. Occasionally a haggis hurl.
Oh, God.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the stone and the hammer. Well, hammers are like a hammer throw. Like
yeah. So they're essentially like a 42-inch piece of rattan stuffed into a 16 or 22-pound hammerhead.
Were you always naturally gifted in strength sports? Because you're a big human for like Earth.
Yeah,
but you're not like an overwhelmingly large person for strength sports.
I'm smaller.
Yeah,
this is not fighting weight.
So you must be, but you still must have a lot of genetic gifts as far as
definitely
heavy,
right.
Yeah.
Like I would say athleticism and strength came pretty naturally. Since when I started training, basically was freshman year going into high school.
Are you
for
Scottish?
Football. None. Not even a bit.
How did you get interested in that?
Got to LSU on a track and field scholarship, doing shot put, discus, and hammer, and then after my time there, found some different avenues, and then got back into lifting with powerlifting and weightlifting and strongman, and then eventually found a Highland Games to go compete in. And if you're a thrower in college, it's kind of like cheating going into it. And so you've already got this great background and all this
cheating
knowledge.
Going into the Highland Games?
Yeah, because you already know how to throw.
Well, I mean,
the events are different, sure, but like you already know how to create leverage and apply force to a submaximal weight implement.
Yeah.
And
certainly the hammer, you had a advantage.
Yeah. I mean, we threw hammer in college, but the hammer is a little different because you're not allowed to spin.
Oh, is that right?
You actually wear boots that have like a 6-inch blade off the end of them.
Really?
That you bury into the ground, so that as you're winding the hammer around you, you can pull with your feet against the ground, so that the hammer is not lifting you out.
That's crazy.
The thing that I've always been so impressed with strongmen and Highland Games athletes is that you're not just strong. There's a serious level of conditioning that comes into that. I mean,
physics.
How do you balance? Oh, yes, it's a skill. It's a skill like anything else. But how do you balance having that level of conditioning to make it through an entire event with being that big and being that strong?
You learn how to pace yourself during the day, right? Like, so our average competitions, you figure we're going to do 9 events, and that's going to stretch either over 2 days or usually from like 8 a.m. we're on the field and we're off the field by 5 or 6. And so it's a long day, and you get 3 attempts per event, and that's warming up for each event and going through it. And so I personally treated it like I needed to have some conditioning so that I could still finish the day strong, because I watched other people who couldn't, and they would fade after lunch and stuff like that. So for me, it was sled pushing, bounding, sprints, even cardio. I like doing an hour or 2 hours on either my road bike or a assault bike in the morning.
And there's a lot of serious meatheads out there that they look at that as just being an anathema. The idea of spending 2 hours on a road bike.
Just crazy idea, right?
But do you think that I believe that idea of catabolism is it's overstated.
I do too.
It's pretty difficult to really catabolize yourself just from doing a little bit of cardio here and there.
Right. so much of that comes from either surplus of calories or deficit of calories. If you're on a surplus of calories and you're still doing cardio, you're not losing muscle.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not doing anything crazy. I mean, I'm racking up some time during the week to just get my heart rate elevated, and mostly through, high intensity stuff, doing sprints.
Yeah.
And so I'm not doing big, long, fat burning, walking on the treadmill for 45 minutes like a bodybuilder.
Right.
And so,
what's your best event? What's your favorite event?
My favorite event.
Are they the same? And are they the same?
I always like throwing stones. I was a shot putter, and throwing the stones is real similar. I was able to tie the world record one year, and that was always a good event for me, but probably best event. I was really good at the weights while I was competing. And those, essentially, you've got a 56-pound block on the end of like 2 lengths of chain and a ring, and you throw it with one hand, so you spin and throw it.
So gangster.
Yeah, so we have that in a 28-pound.
Oh, that is so manly.
Yeah, the 28-pound I threw 94'2".
And you can spin.
Yeah, you spin twice.
Yeah.
Are Americans typically good at the Highland Games?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a lot of us. And so there's a lot of athletes, that finish college in track and field or different sports and don't have the next thing to do.
Right.
And so we end up finding where to go. And so, I mean, if you were, I've always described it like this, like if you were my level of thrower in college, like I was a 60-foot shot putter, 70 foot's the Olympics. And then if you're 10% better than me, you could probably convince yourself that you have a shot to go for the Olympics.
Okay.
But if you're 10% worse than me, you're terrible. And so I was very, very average.
It's a fine line.
As a collegiate thrower. And so this played very well to moving into the Highland Games.
Something you can compete at and do well.
Do you have to travel a lot to compete?
A lot.
Yeah.
So I would compete. Over the 10 years I did it, I averaged about 21, 22 competitions a year. And so that was, my season started in May and went all the way through the last week of September.
Are they all in Scotland?
No. So we did them around the U.S. and then, depending on where the World Championships were or something like that would be when I would get over to Scotland, or if the World Championships were here. But I liked getting to Scotland. I would try to go over the last 4 or 5 seasons, and then it's a different sport there, the way that you train or prepare for it, because like competing over here, like I'm essentially going to compete every weekend. So then I'm going to fly Friday, compete Saturday, compete Sunday, fly home Monday, train, fly Friday, and compete.
Wow.
Every week. And so some of those, if they're not national championships or world championships, you just train through them.
Sure.
You're just going to be a little sore. You're not peaked for that event, right? And in Scotland, I'd go over for 16 days or something like that and compete 11 times.
Wow.
So you'll compete 4 or 5 days in a row in different places.
How do you even and maybe you don't? How do you manage recovery when you're that's such a demanding
It
lifestyle.
is, and it's a lot of it is depending on how well you can manage yourself as far as keeping your head together. Because like I said, nothing we throw is terribly heavy. I mean, it's 56 pounds, it's 16 pounds or 22. I mean, this isn't trying to pull a max deadlift.
Sure.
So your CNS doesn't get quite as fried. And so you learn to pace yourself a little bit with those days. And then, today we're going to work on this and hitting smooth throws and doing that. And it's not always 100%
not pushing it,
gamed on like I am like at a championship.
How much are you? What's your diet like? It must be crazy.
Diet now, diet then.
Let's start with at your peak of size and competition, and then.
So my fighting weight, the best that I would throw was about 285, 290, and so I essentially ate whatever. But I tried to keep it, respect myself as an athlete, right? So that I would eat during the week. It would be a higher protein, low carb, low fat type of thing, and then. As we traveled throughout the season, of course, post-competition, I'm going to go have beers with the guys we threw with and have some food and do stuff like that. And that would add up by the end of the year because you can't do that 4 days a week and eat good 3 days a week. And
expect it to work out.
It doesn't play out that way. And so, so that by the end of the season, I always, had put on 10 or 15 pounds by the end of season from when I started.
Did you worry about a macronutrient breakdown, or was it just like, let me get the protein and I'll worry about the rest in the end?
Yeah, I think a lot of the ways I did things were wrong, and I would do them different now, being 2 years removed from competing. I don't think I need as much protein as I was consuming.
Yeah.
But I was trying to do, 1.5, 2 grams protein per pound of body weight, and I'm not much on shakes. I'm trying to do it for food.
Sure.
And that becomes a lot.
Well, we were talking about this in previous episodes, Dr. Drew and I, with other guests, about the idea of balancing high performance, whether it be for a physique athlete wanting to look shredded, look big, or for someone an athlete competing in something, balancing health and high performance. It's
different things.
It's tough sometimes.
Well, I mean, the truth of that is, right, if you're competing in a sport and you are competing to be the best in the world at it, we've waved bye-bye to health.
Yeah.
That's no longer the goal.
Well, that's an interesting statement, right? I've always often thought most athletes, if they were honest, would say that.
Yeah,
there's
absolutely
the old.
None of those guys at Tour de France are healthy.
Yeah, they're not interested.
Riding a
they're
bike can
interested-
be healthy.
They're interested in winning, and if being unhealthy makes them win, they are going to be unhealthy.
Well, I think it was the '84 Olympics where they interviewed the athletes at the Olympic Center and said, if you could take a decade off your life, but it guaranteed you a gold. And like 90-something% of the athletes said they would take the decade off their life.
The steroids,
Right.
So, and who knows, right?
Yep.
But I mean, look, that's got to be an issue
But
in the Highland
philosophically,
game.
it's so interesting that I don't think the world knows that.
Well, no.
The world goes, that's a healthy person. Look, he can
No.
throw a caber.
Look,
It's like-
Drew,
It's-
Dr. Drew, I guarantee you took years off your life in medical school.
I worry that the lack of sleep and stress that I
I'm
had
sure, right?
just screwed me up, but I wasn't thinking about it at the time.
But you were thinking about doing something extraordinary.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's
yeah.
my point,
Yeah.
is that when people are worried about doing something extraordinary, oftentimes you overlook what the toll it might be taking.
Yeah.
Yeah, moderation kind of has
And
to
when
go
you're
out
young,
the window.
you would deny it. Just go, I don't care.
Yeah.
Right? You're young.
Well, you're pursuing a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you look good though. Even though
I look
know
better now.
even though you're not competing, but even at your heaviest weight, a lot of these guys I see, and again, I'm comparing it to physique athletes a lot. I work out at Venice Gold's gym, and I'm in
fun.
that world. There's the guys that they have the bags under their eyes and the skin's all cracked and things, and they're 30 years old. But you look healthy. You look
Right.
like a healthy guy.
I care about it. I care about trying to keep the diet right, and I care about trying to get enough water and all that. And it's one of those things that, like, once you know that thing makes a difference,
Yeah.
or that you're going to feel better, or
Yeah.
the way that you should treat your body, not doing it kind of makes you an asshole. Like, because then you're choosing. You can't claim
Yeah.
ignorance anymore.
Yeah.
And so,
No, that's a good way of looking at it. You're directly disobeying something
Correct.
that you know to be wrong. That you know to be
Right.
the way to do things. What are the things that you if you knew then what you know now, what would you have implemented as far as maybe recovery or diet changes?
yeah, recovery stuff for sure. I would have been a lot better and a lot more, thoughtful in my mobility and things like that as I was going into it. But, at the time you have a job and you're traveling and competing, and you have to prioritize what makes you your best, not the longevity of the career sometimes.
Right.
And so those are things I wish I could have implemented. I wish I would have had, access to, the hot tub that I have now, or a cold pool, or any of those type of things.
And what type of training do you do that carries over outside of just training the skills of the events themselves? Just power lifts?
Yeah, so I ended up my first year going into the Highland Games. I had wrote a book about how I ended up training for it. So I kind of implemented a lot of the stuff I'd got from powerlifting, and a lot of the stuff I got from strongman, and then the stuff that I also got from throwing as an athlete in college. So there's a mix of powerlifting and a mix of Olympic lifting.
Okay.
And so as an athlete with the Highland Games, like I said before, nothing's terribly heavy. So it's application of force that matters. I need speed and power, not the diesel engine that squats 700 pounds.
Sure.
At some point I need max strength, but if me doing a 700-pound squat that takes 2 seconds on the return up, that doesn't translate to me throwing a ball that's 16 pounds. I need horsepower, and I need it to turn on immediately.
So it's a 225-pound squat jump.
Yeah. It's doing lots of bounding. It's doing Olympic lifts. It's what can I snatch? What can I push press?
Hang on a second. I don't see the connection between bounding with weights and Olympic lifting. Am I missing something?
Well, it's generation of force, generation of power.
Yeah, I mean, it's all. So it's big multi-joint movements, and so it's extending the hips. It's trying to figure out how do I generate power with my lower half, with the hips and legs, and translate that into something that leaves my hand.
So it's trying to think of the muscle composition that would require that, right?
Everything.
Yeah, it requires
all of it.
Yeah, so you have a pretty good mix of everything.
Literally everything from the toes.
So I
down
I did no like bodybuilding isolation type work ever.
Right.
So everything is in the. I would take part of my off season and do some high volume work, but essentially during the season, like I would do 12 sets of 3 at 75%, and so I want those to move, even to the point of like I'm tracking speed on the bar with a Tendo unit or something like that, and we'll go up today to a triple. What's the heaviest weight I can move at a meter a second?
12 sets of 3 at 75%. How long in between the sets?
Enough to catch my breath.
Just catch your breath.
Yeah, just
so
enough.
it's almost like you're doing 36 reps.
Right.
Yeah,
just enough to walk around, sit a second.
Are you the kind of person where there's a quick recovery in your muscle? Because there's a genetic subset where apparently that's a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know the genetic behind whether I do or not. I know that I was able to, and I felt like I was able to kind of train myself to get better at it.
Yeah, I'm the way I am. If I can take a breath, it's like I'm starting over again almost.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah. But when I had some of the genetics tested, that showed up.
And is that something that carries over even to like running sprints or something, or is it just for resistance training?
Here's what it translated to. When I was in high school, I could play defensive end and get in the backfield before anybody could even knew the ball was snapped. But once the play moved on, I was helpless.
Yeah.
They just moved past me. I had to rest, and then I could
big explosive, 6 seconds, and then
3 seconds.
Yeah, we're not going to run a marathon.
3 seconds, and then it's over.
Yeah,
and then I got to stop.
Yeah, that's absolutely the type of athlete I am. I'm very good. Figure most of the throws I'm taking in the Highland Games are going to take half a second, maybe a second, and so I need all-out effort in that moment.
Did you play high school football?
Yeah.
What position?
I was offensive lineman.
Okay.
I wasn't terribly big.
Similar.
Yeah,
speed and explosion. There it is.
There's a lot of debate as to whether or not maximal strength takes away from speed strength. Have you ever found it to be counterproductive to have that, like you said, takes 3 seconds to get that deadlift up?
He never
or
let
that
that
squat
happen.
up?
He couldn't.
Right.
He had to make sure that didn't happen.
Yeah. Depends on what you're training for, right? If you're training to be a great power lifter, you need some speed work, but you don't need the same type of speed work I was doing.
Sure. Now I'm thinking of more like, I know that there's varying schools of thought, and I've seen high level strength and conditioning coaches work with, like, say, boxers and MMA athletes,
right?
And they say that not only is a heavy deadlift or a heavy squat superfluous, it can be counterproductive to generating maximum speed.
I always wonder that with watching, MMA coaches and how they manage their weight training type stuff. And for me, I don't understand why we're not doing big multi-joint lifts that are going to be in that 80% range for triples, because we can build strength and we can build speed and power without putting on size.
Sure.
And hypertrophy work is what would be a real bother for an MMA athlete. That's just more muscle that you've got to feed with air while you're trying to fight, and more muscle and stuff like that is going to start limiting mobility.
Right. Yeah.
But you don't need to get bigger to get stronger.
Yeah, that is an important point to hammer home, and I don't think a lot of people believe that. I mean, obviously, the two can work in unison.
Of course.
Someone can get bigger.
Don't get me wrong.
If you were trying to get stronger in a small, concentrated movement, you would get bigger.
Yes.
But that's not what you want.
Right.
You want an overall explosive strength.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you look at most shot putters that go to the Olympics. I mean, guys are crazy explosive and super strong, and don't hardly look like a guy that you would see in the grocery store and think like, oh, that guy trains 6 days a week.
Right.
No, and then alternatively, I've seen guys 270 that are shredded, professional bodybuilders. They can't move a heavy bag.
Right.
They literally can't, punch a heavy bag to get it to move.
Run. They might not be able to run.
What is your feeling about the average, just a weekend warrior, a guy like myself, engaging in the Olympic lifts? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Because they are complex.
They are complex skills, right?
When you guys say Olympic lifts, which ones are you talking about?
Snatch, clean, jerk.
That's it. Period. Those three.
For those, what I recommend for people is if there's something that you can learn very, very quickly, like say the big picture of it, the 80%, that you are being able to hold position with your back, you are getting the bar up, and you are engaging your hips and going into triple extension, and then transferring the power from the weight into the barbell. Awesome. That's big picture. Now, how well it looks and can you catch it and be below parallel? If you're not competing in Olympic weightlifting, snatch pulls and clean pulls, everyone can do.
Right.
And they're just as good for the athlete. You're going to do plenty of other stuff that's going to catch the eccentric part of that lift from the catch, which that's the riskier part that's going to require more mobility. I mean, everybody essentially can jump, and that's all you're really doing with a snatch pull or a hang pull, or a clean pull.
No, that's good advice. And I've always felt like I never knew if the juice was worth the squeeze on a complete clean, but power cleans to me, it was like that.
What's the difference?
Well, power clean you catch up here. A full clean you catch, and then almost like
you
a
catch
front
almost
squat.
at the bottom of a squat. Would
the
be
bottom of a front squat.
would be the full
Well,
lift.
one, you're catching more up.
Power clean you catch upright.
Yeah,
You
above
just
parallel would be considered a power clean.
And hang power clean's the same thing too.
Yeah,
so you're getting
same
with the clean pulls is that you're engaging that power system.
Right, and for a guy who wants to be athletic and train and not be overly concerned about things, I think even some little bit of Olympic lifting is great because you're neuromuscular timing. I'm telling my body we're going to fire in this order now, and if it fires in the wrong order, the lift doesn't work very well.
Right,
and so we can do that without, like I said, that ending portion where you need to catch in a proper overhead position with extension. So
that's the snatch.
Yeah. Or even going from the clean, a lot of people can't get the mobility to get the bar back here. So, I mean, you can pull it high as you want, and if you want to drop it, drop it.
Drop it, right.
Yeah.
We're talking to Matt Vincent, joining us here on the Swole Patrol. Dr. Drew Pinsky is here, of course, and Drew and I have a ongoing debate about the value of a man, Dr. Drew's age. I mean, Drew's in great shape. I mean, I'm not just whistling Dixie, and he likes to lift weights. But he's resistant to the idea of heavy squats and deadlifts. Now,
my body's resistant.
I
love that stuff.
And let me point this out, Matt.
Okay.
Heavy relative to him. I'm not encouraging him to
look,
go.
We're always talking RPE, right? We're relative perceived effort.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's a time in your program where you should go to, let's call it 90%.
90% of my maximum lift.
Yeah. I don't think there's ever a reason that you need to one rep max test unless you're planning on getting on the platform.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
He's resistant to the
power
movements,
lifts
in
the
general.
Movements. I'm resistant to movements because back pain and this and that, and I don't get heavy enough that I get anything out of it. It doesn't feel like I get anything out of it.
Well, that's maybe the issue. Maybe if you were doing them heavy enough on a more regular basis, we would maybe start eliminating some back pain and hips.
It always gets worse. Now he's going to argue that's my form. It always gets worse, and I abandon it. That's my pattern.
It's a vicious cycle, and
Yeah.
I'm not the doctor in the room, and I'm certainly not the professional.
Listen, this is not a physician thing.
But I'm not the doctor, and I'm not the professional athlete. So I am speaking out of turn, but I do think starting light enough and working form with a linear progression would take care of the back pain, not exacerbate.
So, it's possible that's because I only am interested, only feel good with heavy lift. That's why I lose interest. And even, maybe that's one thing that I don't know if I've ever tried is exactly what you're describing, but I'm imagining I would lose interest pretty fast.
It's tough. So like one of the things I did to kind of start building that strength base at the end of every season, and this is the way I've recommended program for a new person coming in who has a little bit of time under the bar, is I do German volume training for the first 10 weeks of my off season. So I do 10 sets of 10 at 50% for the first 2 weeks, and then 10 sets of 10 at 55% for the next 2 weeks.
10 sets of 10.
Yeah,
I think
classic
you're
GVT.
But I think you're sort of advocating 10 sets of 5 at 25% of my.
That would be
right?
the next block.
Yeah. Okay.
But we've already, after 10 sets of 10 for essentially, I would do it for 10 weeks. I don't think that's quite as necessary. I had a lot of stuff to fix after the season. But after even 5 weeks of 10 by 10, we've now put 500 reps of squatting into the system.
Yeah. At a lighter weight.
At a lighter weight. So repetition's what does it. I mean, it's the accumulation of work that builds all the stuff in it. It's not the single rep.
And I honestly, people ask me all the time, especially young high school age kids, what's the best thing to do to put on weight, put on mass? But German volume training,
that's
hands
one of my favorite questions. I get that, man, I'm looking to get stronger. What program do you think's good? And I answer the same way every time. Whichever one that you'll do 4 days a week that benches, squats, deadlifts, overhead press for the next 10 years.
No, that's my point. That's my point. And the stuff that I lose interest in, I know I'm not going to do it.
It makes. And listen, if you know that going in, but I do think that people get lost. They lose sight of the forest for the trees. And Matt's exactly right. If you have some type of linear progression on those 4 or 5 lifts,
well, some type of linear progression.
Yes.
That's very vague.
Well,
as reps and sets go down over the course of your block,
the weight goes up.
weight goes up a little bit.
No, I understand, but again, where I'm at when I've got pain and I have to go all the way back down the ladder and I have to start over again, I don't even know how to start.
So are we not? I mean, we don't have anything issue-wise as a mechanical failure, right? Like we don't have anything torn. We don't have any
not officially
herniated stuff.
No, not officially.
Like that, right?
I've got horrible family history of cervical and lumbar spinal stenosis, and I've had neck and back pain since I was 24.
Okay.
But it's never had any neurological implications. It's never limited my anything. It's just I know it's there. It's always there.
I mean, my idea would be to address the pain that you have that you feel from squats, and start attacking that with accessory work for hypertrophy work to get blood flow in there to start dumping stuff out after you're done.
Well, that's something I've thought about too, and I have found a little bit of progress from doing straight up low back. What do you call the extensions? Hyperextensions.
Well, hyperextensions are even one of the. Westside Barbell makes them. Louis Simmons.
The reverse hypers. Those
reverse
are
hypers
a godsend.
What is that?
He won't get one.
What is
too much money.
What is it?
Okay, so it's
a machine.
Yeah.
No,
but it's not a machine per se. So it's a table that you would lay on.
Yeah.
And so your legs hang down, and it has a pendulum underneath.
Yeah.
And so the weight swings with your legs, so you're catching traction as the weight pulls you through.
Yeah.
And then you're bringing it all the way back in.
Yeah.
If you have the ability to use a reverse hyper, I can't. Listen, Louis Simmons is a fucking insane person.
That is a
but
fact.
Say what you want. The guy's cured his intense, immeasurable back pain that he needed surgery after surgery for by doing.
Cure's probably a stretch.
Reverse hyper. And
Show
look,
me the
numbers out of Westside speak for themselves, and those are guys that.
But again, back to the hyperextensions, I lose interest.
Okay,
because those are hard
it's an
to
accessory
do.
work.
Yeah, it's hard to concentrate on. It's hard to do it.
I mean, it's accessory work, right? Like,
oh yeah. No, okay, I'm familiar with this. Yeah. This is awesome.
They make the world's greatest standing table in any gym. They're an excellent place to put your shit.
Yeah.
Shaker cups.
I've also seen.
Are these multiple different? These are multiple different pieces, right? There's not one piece of equipment that does all this.
No, it's one giant.
That's just one piece that does.
That does all that.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm interested. Because I sort of need stuff like this.
And I mean, as far as glutes and lower back and stuff, it's
and there's a lot of ways to hack it.
There's a leg press
to
in
do
here,
different
sort of
stuff.
a seated hack kind of thing.
Yep, you can.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff here. Ooh, I'm interested. I'm gonna send this to myself.
All right,
there you go.
The other thing I've noticed with the reverse hyper is that it's a great place to look at poontang.
Oh, of course.
If you want to not,
if you want to scroll the grams,
yeah,
you're over there looking at your program, giving it one of those stern looks at your phone.
You're a 35-year-old athlete now,
Yep.
and I'm sure you've learned a lot as far as how to treat your body, and you're not pushing that.
Hey, I'm sure you guys inspire me. If that equipment does everything there that I think it says it does,
it's also great for like a low row.
Again.
You can set it up with bands. There's a ton of options.
It's just the idea of. Again, whenever I've thought about some of those movements, I thought, I have to have a piece of equipment for each one of those. Like,
No.
Right.
And I have two friends that are professional MMA fighters that swear by it.
Yep.
That it's
let me say this: one of the great lifts for me is any kind of seated leg press where I've got support on my low back.
See, I find always such a weird shearing force to my low back from the leg press with the way your hips come in.
To me, it works. Oh, it's relief. I get relief from that.
I'm the opposite.
I get relief from that.
Like that kills me because I'm rounded.
But maybe we ought to, we're always saying, listen to your body. Maybe I ought to really pay. It seemed like that machine did that, so I may have got to go do that. Maybe.
I mean, what about looking at your squat in a way to change it up? So, I mean, what about doing a box squat? What about doing a Hatfield squat with a safety bar so that your hands are available and you can sit back further?
Yeah.
And keep a vertical shin. We can get more of the work into the posterior chain, which would go into your low back and stuff like that.
Yep. I listen again. But it means going way down on the weights.
Yeah, that's fine.
Everyone's starting over.
I mean, look, man, I'm coming back from essentially 2 years of knee surgeries.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time with doing body weight occlusion style training.
I guess what's weird and different for me is that I don't know that I can get where I want to go at all because I've never been there. You're going back to somewhere you've been.
There's also an idea that maybe you don't have a destination on the road you're trying to get to.
But it doesn't feel. I know that's not something I'll keep doing because it doesn't feel good.
Well, so I mean,
isn't that weird?
I don't have any problem with that.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as you have a barbell in your hand and you're doing something to stay fit, I think you're fine.
Okay, well, I'm fine. See mine.
There you go.
Yeah, and I wonder. I think Matt's onto something, but I wonder because they talk so much about the anti-aging effect of weight training, especially barbell training. With bone density and hormone balancing and stuff. And I wonder. Is it mandatory that you do the heavy power lifts to get that effect, or can you achieve it with?
I sure don't think so.
Yeah,
it's not mandatory, but
Yeah, it can help.
Yeah,
it's going to help for sure.
We don't know. The reality is we don't know because there are not that many people that have lived that long who've engaged in this kind of lifting.
That's true.
Late in the life.
I'm sure drugs a big part of the Highland Games, as there is with anything. But.
The Highland Games actually, I would say, is pretty good, man. There's only 10 of us or so that were top in the world, maybe 15 guys that kind of rotated in and out of those professional sides of competitions, and we were drug tested 6 or 7 times a season.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's a drug-tested sport.
Yep.
That's actually really awesome.
Yeah,
because...
I personally don't give a shit.
Right.
But the way I felt about it was I came into a sport, and they said, these are the rules, and I said, okay.
Were you ever looked at as a weirdo because you're not
a lot?
And the reason I say that is because you're not the typical kind of meathead. You're not blaring Pantera and wearing Affliction.
You're
a guy who you have a Ziggy Stardust tattoo,
yeah.
for Christ's sake. So
yeah, I definitely fit a weirder mold, right? That's one of the reasons I got out of doing strongman and got out of powerlifting was I really liked the training for it, and I hated the competition environment. I just, for the life of me, couldn't understand mean mugging a bunch of dudes in a GNC parking lot listening to, System of a Down all day. It's just for the fucking life of me, I didn't understand.
I'm with you, man.
That's not my scene. And so the Highland Games, we're outside, usually at lunchtime during the competition, we'd have a beer.
And a couple thousand years of tradition.
Yeah,
that's pretty
that's
sweet.
cool stuff.
That's pretty rad.
I'm over bagpipes, however. I've heard enough bagpipes.
It's one of those that little goes a long way type instruments.
It just sounds like it's cool when they're being played. But if you're at a competition and they're having a big bagpipe thing, it's just essentially all day warming up bagpipes, which is just cats in a bag.
Yeah. Right.
And that, I've heard enough bagpipes.
The cool with the bagpipes, you may not be aware of it unless you've been to Scotland, but it gets ultra cool when it's a tattoo. They bring the drum out and everything else. Then it gets kind of cool.
Yeah, competing in Scotland's fun. It's a different thing. And then there's big contests. Like there's the one at Braemar that's been there for 300 or 400 years.
Wow.
I did another one that was like the 700th running of a competition, and so some of the implements, like the stone we used, is the stone.
Are the Scots?
Oh, wow!
So that's
cool. Really cool.
Yeah.
Are the Scots at all territorial about it, or are they happy that people from all over the world are into it?
They can get a little territorial, especially if the Americans show up and they're dicks.
Right.
I never had that issue. Right. I showed up and hung out with friends. So
I'm looking at all the machines now, guys. That was 5 different machines.
Perfect.
I'm crestfallen.
No.
It was a bunch of machines. The reverse hyper is $800.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if it did 10 other things, I would be good.
It can do them. We just got to figure it out.
This reverse hyper right here that I'm looking at.
Yeah. First of all, how do you see through that screen? Do you see his phone screen?
Every time, if mine ever breaks, I fix it that day.
This is the one you want to get. This is
the Rogue.
No, don't go with Louis Simmons' actual West Side.
I think
Barbell.
Sornex makes a really nice one as well.
Wait, Louis Simmons?
Yeah, he's the guy behind West Side Barbell.
West Side Barbell.
He's the best.
He's Louis,
and he's fucking insane.
Yeah, a complete crazy person.
Wait, Louis? That's not. Oh.
I was going to ask about your training and your diet now because you're like a sharp looking dude. You look good. You're not.
Yeah, I'm down 235. Feel
but
better.
You're like you hold 235 really well. You don't.
I like it.
Yeah. You don't look 235. I mean, you
nice.
look big, but you look 215, 210, something like that.
I have never weighed that.
I mean, but you look thin. You look lean.
It's definitely different, right? Essentially, when I started getting the knee cut on in the end of 2016. So about a month after that season and finished, we decided to start fixing the knee, and then it was like pulling a string on a bad sweater. We thought this one thing would be the problem, and then the more we went into it, just became more and more wrong, and then things didn't take. So at some point during that, I was like, okay, I'm done competing. Let's get back to how I can walk and not be in pain.
Right.
Let's focus on that for now. And so one of the parts of that is having something to focus on and make progress while you're laying on the couch. I spent 22 weeks on crutches in the last 2 years. A
guy at your level, that must have been so hard to deal with. You must have felt
different.
Like you were withering away or getting fat or whatever.
The withering away was cool because I was trying to lose weight.
Yeah.
So what I thought of during that time span is like, well, I know that I can't squat, I can't deadlift, I can't do these other things that I normally do, but what I can do is not eat like an asshole. I can maintain metabolic shape by getting on the assault bike and leaving even my right leg in a straight leg brace on the peg and pedaling and using my arms.
Right.
I can bench. I can do any seated lifting I want to do, and then all the rehab. But, I mean, the biggest key to that is not eating like an asshole.
Right.
And so,
what does that entail for you?
For me, I switched over to a ketogenic style diet,
Nice.
and I've been very, very happy with it.
Drew and I both are big fans.
I'm really, really happy. It's been very good for me. I like intermittent fasting every day. I'm not as hungry. I feel sharper. I don't get that crash. I don't.
Yeah. Do you? What are you going 16/8 as far as intermittent fasting? You 16 hours fast.
So I just will have coffee and or some form of bulletproof coffee or whatever if the day calls for that. Till I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And then when I'm hungry, I eat.
Got it.
And so usually that's noon or hell, it's 3:22 and I haven't eaten today.
Have you found that you need to have any type of refeeds or you just go straight?
No, there's enough cool stuff that pops up in your life, right? That the way I feel, I'm never going to be that dude that's bringing Tupperware to a restaurant.
Yeah.
Like, that's never fucking happening.
No, that's a good
Mike,
to point
though.
out.
That's
Yeah.
Mike.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I mean,
he brings Tupperware everywhere but the restaurant.
Listen, if I'm going to bring some sirloin to work,
that's a good move.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But I'm not going to be that guy.
And he brings chicken and some broccoli and come
Bring
on
a jug of MCT oil. And
that's right. I just drink it straight out. I
out.
used to know an ultra runner who would eat coconut oil like it was ice cream. He would just tub it in his
I've got a buddy who had twin girls, and essentially at some point had them kind of eating that style as they were really young. And so at some point he had convinced them that like a spoonful of coconut oil was like a treat. Mm-hmm. And so they're into it. And then like as the kids get older, he's talking to his wife. And he's like, we kind of got to start breaking them into real world shit here.
Yeah.
So they're like, all right. So they bought some like Halo Top ice cream, stuff like that, right? And the girls get ice cream, and so they're all pumped on it. He says they're 4 at this point or 3 and have some birthday party for a friend. They go to their house and they break out this gallon jug of vanilla Bluebell ice cream. And like he said, they're watching them. And they both get their bowls and go sit down. And, like, there's never this recognition yet because, like, hell, they've had ice cream before. Sure. This ain't no big deal. They both take a bite and look at each other and then look over at him like, you son of a bitch.
You've been hiding the good stuff.
You have lied to us. Nothing is true anymore.
The just red meat, good cuts of red meat is about the only healthy thing I can get my daughter to buy into.
That's perfect.
Because everything else, she's always like, this doesn't taste delicious,
right.
But she'll
taste delicious.
She will crush a ribeye.
And as the diet, I'm not tracking anything anymore. There was a period of time that I did track, and you learn what fits and what full feels like, and those things. I really like that without the carbs, I don't have that bloated, inflamed feeling.
I agree.
And so that was a big change of the diet too, with the way my knee felt. Like when it would get really inflamed post surgery, it would hurt a lot when I exhale. And I don't know why that does that, but you can't avoid it.
That's very strange.
It's really lame.
That's something.
I don't know if it's a small change in blood pressure or whatever it is, but awful.
Genetics.
You just stab.
Ooh.
So
do you have to monitor the amount of protein? Do you feel like it hinders the ketogenesis?
That's I'm very careful to say ketogenic at this point because I'm not tracking.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if I'm in ketosis.
Sure.
So I'm just eating a
low carb,
high fat, moderate protein diet.
You guys, I'm still obsessing over Westside Barbell here. I'm trying to build my gym while we do this.
Perfect.
Listen,
every one of these things we've talked about is a separate piece of equipment.
You, with your status, I guarantee that if you called Louis Simmons, he would send you
He would absolutely not know who you are.
See? You see how it goes?
That's the only reason I suspected is because he sent Rogan one. And I was thinking, but what if Dr.
But Rogan went to Ohio to interview
true.
Louis, and in the opening seconds of that podcast, he's like, hey, man, Louis, really nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. And Louis says, nice to meet you, Jim. He essentially Ron Swanson him. Anytime someone's a little too chummy with you, just call him by the wrong name, take him back down a peg.
It does. It just humbles you very quickly.
So, Mike, we can go to Ohio. That'd be fine. We go do that.
Dude,
Columbus is the Arnold is coming up. The Arnold Classic. Is
honestly
we should if this podcast gets some popularity. That could be a way to go.
Dude, I'd love to go to Westside Barbell, but
I honestly do the
Arnold.
The
Arnold is
an
interesting
interview.
I've been to the Arnold. It's amazing. Even if you're not,
for it.
You don't like it?
it's a trade show full of dudes walking around in stringer tanks. It's not my
Yeah,
favorite.
the convention aspect of it is not for me. But
okay.
It's because it's not like a bodybuilding show. There's strength events and there's martial arts and there's
right.
aspect
All
of
that
it.
type of thing. I do like that it's essentially become like summer camp almost, to where like all the people that I know in this universe are going to be there that weekend. So I get to see my strongman buddies, and I get to see the powerlifter guys I know, and then the other people that I essentially travel around to go see instead.
Right.
They're all there.
I'm just saying, Drew, we might not be swole enough to even be let into Westside Barbell. They might not.
Well,
they might
we have
say
a microphone. It'd be helpful, right?
No, I don't think they give a shit. I'm pretty sure
It's more based on your blood pressure.
Yeah. Wait, what would you say? Because I know you sound like a pretty level-headed guy when it comes to your approach to health and fitness and training. I'm sure you're not like a huge supplement head, but there has to be some kind of key things that you would recommend. It's a multi-fish oil and sometimes creatine.
It's evolved, right, over the course of my training. There was a period of time where I was trying to do shakes and things like that, and then different supplements, and where I've kind of stumbled on things now, I really like supplements that are going to help me feel better so that I can perform better the next day. I'm not a pre-workout guy. I take one from USP Labs, Amino Lift, and it's a very mild stimulant, and it has some BCAAs in it.
Nice.
And so
BCA?
Yeah.
Branched chain
amino acid. So it's enough that if I'm not in the mood to work out, I tend to have a good workout.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not all coked up. Amino Lift from USP Labs.
Huh,
I really like it. And then I take a night and day multivitamin pack from Onnit, which is really nice because they're just convenient, already put in packs.
The Total Primate Care ones? Yeah, those are bomb.
The TPC, they're great.
Let me see what's in there.
See what else I take. I take a Max Sleep. I take a supplement for sleeping.
Is it propofol?
Nope. I wish.
Is it melatonin?
Man, I'll tell you the one thing, going in for 7 knee surgeries, as soon as they would check me in and put me into a room, I'm like, we can go ahead and get started.
Yeah.
On,
whatever you're going to inject me with, please.
What's the first drug they give me when I get in there? That
Drew?
Essentially, they're value me.
Versed?
Versed. That's the one.
Yeah.
Essentially, as soon as I got checked in, I'm like, we can start that.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah, that shit does sound
That's
bomb.
one of the few ones that I've been around that I'm like, I'm glad I don't have access to that tomorrow.
I'm a drug addict, so I can never get good stuff when I go to the hospital. I always have to give them that warning. And I just got my wisdoms yanked, and they so wanted to give me Percocet and morphine, all this fun stuff, and I had to just, it's just Advil.
Stick to pot.
Hey guys, I can't figure out what's in Total Primate Care.
It's some spirulina chlorella,
krill
oil,
spirulina,
and some
Shroom Tech Immune.
Yep, they have a mushroom.
That's antioxidants, and then you get some multivitamin, like a mineral. There's a mineral complex, and that's it.
Yep, it's pretty simple. It's like 4 or 5 things.
No vitamins per se.
Here
it is.
The Shroom Tech Immune has some vitamin B12 and so.
Yeah, I think there is a B12
There's
in
some magnesium, molybdenum. Those are the tryptophan, niacin, vitamin B6, magnesium.
The night stuff, the nighttime one.
K2, we've talked about K2 before.
The nighttime one, it helps with relaxation. The daytime one helps with pepping you up a little
Strangely,
bit.
D3, very low in D3.
Yeah, there's a little nootropic in the daytime one as well with the alpha brain.
Weirdly low in D3, so you have to supplement that a little further maybe. All right.
So that's one I really like. And then Max Sleep and Max Adrenal from another company. Nova 3 Labs.
Nice.
That one's been really good.
Is that just like some adaptogens keep your...
Yeah. For me, where I really notice is traveling a lot, that if I know that tonight I'm probably only going to get 4 hours of sleep, those are going to be 4 good hours of sleep.
Right.
And then I'm not groggy and gross feeling the next day.
It's called Max Sleep?
Yeah, Max Sleep and then Max Adrenal.
I just want to make sure I reveal this, that we're talking about these things and people.
Sure, no, that'd be great.
Yeah. I always find it really weird when they put lots of things in a supplement, but inadequate total
dosages.
Not enough vitamin D, not enough fish oil. You have to add that in.
Yeah.
Weird to me.
Yeah.
I wonder why that is.
Do you feel like you have an itch you can't scratch now that you don't compete? Do you ever get?
That's a weird bit. Yeah. That's for sure a weird bit of kind of something I've talked about lately, and feel it's really strange that as an athlete and as a performance based guy, I found a thing that I'm best in the world at.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a bunch of weird federations for the Highland Games or any of this. So the 2 years, 2012 and 2014, that I won, there wasn't anyone on earth who could beat me.
That's got to be a feeling.
That's a super cool feeling.
Match, right?
The last time I competed in 2016 was at a world championship, and I took second. So there wasn't like a slow fade and decline.
Ooh. Yeah. Hey, let me read something here. Max Sleep contains phenibut, whatever that is.
It's just GABA,
an ingredient that has been scheduled by the TGA. As such, it will be discontinued on the 1st of February, 2018. Oh. So Max Sleep was just discontinued.
Say bye-bye.
Oh, wow.
It will continue on sale till then or until the stock runs out. So
Phenibut.
I thought
that was just GABA, like a GABA regulator.
I wonder. I'm wondering if that's something.
See, I'm more of a go ahead and take it and see how I feel, and if it works, I'll keep using it. If it doesn't, I don't use it.
Yeah.
Well, it looks fine. It's just it's weird that they stopped producing it now.
But getting back to the idea of like missing out on that.
Yeah,
feeling.
so it's a weird thing to kind of have.
They've begun formulating a new version of Max Sleep. No release date yet, so
there
it'll
you
come
go.
out. So there you go.
Perfect. You know, it's and then kind of the realization that I probably won't find a second thing I'm best in the world at. Most people don't find one, and so like, oh, I found this thing that I'm really good at, and I love doing it. You don't get to do that anymore.
Right.
And like, there's no halfway. There's no dabbling in throwing.
No.
You know, it's not like I can just go play golf and be worse at golf.
Have you analyzed something like, that's more accessible, something like CrossFit or something?
Yeah, of course. I did a little powerlifting meet a few weeks ago, so that was fun. It was fun getting to flip that switch of competition again, and that's really what I love and miss. I like there being a pass-fail test and a moment of we're going to perform now.
Right.
And that's really what I like.
That was going to be my next question. I'm glad you said that. Is that would you encourage everyone to have at least something? Obviously, no one's going to be a world-class competitor, but just that notion of, hey, I got to turn it on. In 12 weeks from today, I'm doing this.
For the life of me, I don't understand the other life.
Right.
I don't understand not having those things and deadlines and something to prepare for, and then a test of, there's something that comes confidence-wise of knowing, for myself, I mean, whether it's in competition or whether it's been in work or it's been in doing things that you're uncomfortable, that I'll make it happen. I was a gamer as an athlete. I always threw better in competition than I ever did in training. And if we have 3 throws and you've taken 3 and I've got 1 left and you're just ahead of me, I'm going to get you.
We're bleeding into a topic here that's kind of interesting for the average person is putting yourself in an adverse environment or being uncomfortable.
Well,
and how important that is to the average person.
Well, that's training in general, right?
Well, but I think even like I try to take a cold shower every day just because it's uncomfortable. And
it's amazing we live in such a great time that we have so few actual stress that we now
have
can
to create
choose
it.
to create stress.
The Stoics had a saying that Ryan Holiday taught me called amor fati, which is essentially which is love fate. Just love even the adversity. But if you're not kind of prepared for it, if you don't get used to adversity a little bit,
I don't enjoy being in the 40-degree cold tub I have every morning at home.
Right, but you'll do it.
But I feel good after.
Feel damn good when it's over.
Yeah. And I feel fired up, and I like the systemic response and these other type of things. But yeah, I think it's important that people are able to push themselves to do a thing, like to have a competition, to have the lights turned on them and figure out, can you perform?
Yeah.
Not in theory, not, my numbers are okay. If I went over and did that, I'd be fine.
Right.
No, man. Show up.
Put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, show up and do it.
That's why we got to get Dr. Drew in an MMA fight.
Nice. I think that's a terrible idea.
I agree. Thank you. Thank you for backing me up.
Yeah. Come on, there's got to be something.
I've recently gotten into jiu-jitsu, so trying to find something new to play around with.
Yeah.
And I'm terrible at it.
He's sitting right there. You can play around with him.
Drew wants you to choke me.
Because he
likes being choked out.
And by that,
I didn't say that.
I'm a sweet five sessions into jiu-jitsu.
Oh, really?
It's awful. I'm so bad at it.
Where out in Louisiana?
Yeah, a spot in Louisiana, and it's great fun. I'm really enjoying the training for it. It's something completely different, and it'll be cool once I learn enough that I can use the strength I have, but I currently don't know enough to do it.
There's something about jiu-jitsu, and I've only found it with surfing as well, where it's kind of sucks ass for a period of time.
Right.
It sucks until there's that moment where you're like, oh no, this is fun now.
But that's the beauty of it, right?
Isn't that everything?
Well, no, there's some stuff like a pickup basketball game. It's fun. It's just fun to jiu-jitsu is wildly frustrating. Like you feel like I got
tapped by a 140-pound girl.
Yeah, and you go.
I was like, well,
I think every guy
we learned.
That's awesome.
Every guy starts going. I may be the worst at this that's ever walked the face of the earth. I was like, am I naturally the worst grappler that's ever lived? But then you just
it's someday one thing clicks.
Yeah.
And then it's momentum and it builds, right? And it's the same thing I tell people about lifting weights. It's let's do something moderately heavy for some sets of some reps 4 days a week for 10 years. You'll be fine at it.
Yeah.
It's a war of attrition. If you want to get good at things, it's just simply a war of attrition.
Yeah, dude, I'm glad you brought that up. And this might be our final point here before I try to pimp out your socials, which are the most illegible things I've ever seen.
Yes.
I have no
Fantastic.
But how much of anything when it comes to weight training, when it comes to fitness, all of it, how much of it relies on just sheer patience? So many people want it tomorrow.
Well, it doesn't exist that way. And that's one of the things I really like about it, especially with everything is so now, and then there's entitlement and all other things that add to the softness of the culture that we've created.
Yeah.
You can't outsource getting stronger. I don't give a shit who your parents are. I don't care what your financial background is.
Right.
You can't phone it in. We're all equal here.
And the amount of work you put in is directly a result.
Yeah. Now, we're not equal in the way that I'm never going to lift as much as Hapthor or Brian Shaw. Right. I don't have the same tools in my box as those guys have. I'm not 6'10". I'm not 440 pounds. But I can get better. And as long as you're going to chase progress, everyone can make progress. And it's people that get addicted to this idea that there's a finish line. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, whether that's work or anything.
I was just thinking that. And,
there's no there.
And not only that, but we live in a time when you can access podcasts and all kinds of things while you work out. So you can be almost meditative. You can have a full experience. And in this day and age, it behooves you to listen to podcasts about what's going on in the world and educate yourself or even learn more about lifting, whatever it might be, while you're doing this.
Yeah,
because it just makes it more of an experience that then you're likely to look forward to and you're more likely to do it.
In social media, or as much as we're on phones or any of this other type of stuff, I mean, the phone is essentially works, or social media or any of this, right, works as fire. It can either be a thing that you can choose to use to your advantage to warm your house and cook your meals and do all this, or you can let it get out of control and it'll burn your fucking house to the earth.
It's a great analogy.
It's a great analogy.
It's a great analogy.
And we're probably and in reality, we're probably in about the early stages of the discovery of fire, truth be known, in terms of where we are.
I think we're in a weird spot because we've evolved as a society far faster than we have as a species.
As a biological species, yep.
And so there's a lot we're learning still that, maybe like, this was wrong, we were stupid. Like, we didn't know any better.
Yeah. Right. I think, though, that is a feature of the human experience generally. Mm-hmm. In other words, like when we hit the Industrial Revolution, I'm sure people said the same damn thing.
Oh, of course, right?
And so this is just our modern version of it. And it's a little more intense, and it's a little more immediate, and it's a little more arousing or whatever, but it's going to be ultimately the same process, same procedure.
I mean, it's not going away.
No.
We can all agree on that, right?
Yeah,
and it's not going to be all bad, whatever it is.
No, and it hasn't been.
Right.
We all like to bemoan trolls and
you can choose not to deal with them. It's super easy.
Yeah, right.
That's right.
But like I don't get to come and have a conversation with you guys as a guy who got good at throwing rocks in fields,
right?
Without social media,
right? It's true. And Drew doesn't get to know what a reverse hyper is immediately.
Yeah.
We just are like, hey, here,
we essentially are all walking around.
I almost ordered one just now.
We all have a device in our pocket that has all the information of forever.
Yeah, it's weird.
Oh, God. I can't imagine doing my job. I can't imagine doing a radio show, like a daily topical radio show before the internet.
I was an outside sales rep in the petrochemical industry for 10 years until last March. And like doing outside sales, I never did it without a cell phone or a smartphone. And so like thinking about guys that would just go on a 2-week sales trip
And they go up to a payphone.
Yeah, or like tell your wife a hotel room's phone number.
Well,
like you're gone for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I can hotel phone.
Yeah,
and then you'd have to go to here's the part where you wouldn't even appreciate this. You'd have to use the payphone locally because the long distance fees were too great to call into that from wherever you are.
Free long distance, and we're happy to pay for water.
Los Angeles to Orange County was like $5 a minute.
$5 a minute.
I'm not kidding.
Fred Stoller has the best line about modern culture, and he's like, things are so backwards. I remember a time when porn cost money and water was free.
Yeah, right.
Dude, Matt, you're an incredibly interesting guy.
Thanks,
I really
man.
appreciate you joining us today. And if you could, go ahead and pimp out your socials for me because, like I said, it doesn't make any sense.
On social media, I hate Matt Vincent.
Okay.
So it's HVIII, like the Roman numeral.
Gotcha. Okay.
That is
I hate
also,
Matt Vincent.
that's become an apparel brand that I own, Hate Brand Goods. And kind of the idea of that is it's self-motivation through a bit of self-loathing.
Nice.
So I think about...
It's like The Revenant,
Yeah,
It's like,
right. So, athletes I looked at and stuff like that were like a Jerry Rice. You hear a guy who's already arguably the best of all time, but he's still the guy at 4:30 up going to run sprints and run routes and catch bricks and do all this other work that the other guys aren't. He hates himself more than you do.
Yeah.
And that's
He is
part
an
of it,
empty man.
Yeah, right. Anytime that I
Empty
felt
shell
that,
needs to be perfect.
that feeling of, oh, that was good enough. I don't need to get up tomorrow to do the work. Like, fuck that, man.
Yeah.
Don't listen to your own bullshit. Get in there and do it.
No, I think you
I don't like that. I'm getting lazy.
You hit the nail on the
I hate Matt Vincent.
Yeah, perfect.
You hit the nail on the head with the idea that there really isn't a finish line, and we try
There
to
isn't one.
establish
It's all process. It's all journey. Finish line's dead.
But you better. I've sort of been chanting this throughout today's podcast. You better enjoy it, because if you really hate
YOLO,
it,
if
you really hate it, you're not going to do it.
But
you got to find the thing that you like. You may not enjoy it all the
I
time.
disagree,
and that's tough too.
Yeah, I know.
I agree that you have to your passion. You have to enjoy it. But what about what we were just talking about with the discomfort? I mean, with anything
you can be
worthwhile,
miserable doing it, but you still have to feel some sort of enjoyment out of some part of it.
Drawing.
Yeah, I've been home for 48 hours in the last 22 days.
Wow.
And I'm ready to be home.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make me not like what's going on right now.
Sure.
But I can be tired. It's all momentum that's building to a thing.
All I know is if the barrier is too high, people won't do it. If they really don't like it or they're really miserable doing it,
Man,
and
That's
no
why Trump
positive out
wants
of
to
it.
build the wall, Drew.
Look, I know
the barrier's too high, people won't do it.
There you go.
I mean, with modern science, maybe I could live to be 160, 170, but chances are not.
Yeah,
And
chances
so
are
I
pretty
know
good.
as of today, I got one less day.
Yeah.
That's it. There's an X number of days that I'm going to be alive left, and now there is one minus of that from yesterday.
And wouldn't it be a real disaster to waste one of those days worrying about nonsense?
Right.
Yeah.
If you're throwing marbles in the trash can for every week that you think you'll be left alive, did you earn this one?
Gotta hate Matt Vincent.
Hate where? And then I hate Matt Vincent spelled with Roman numerals. That's IHVIII Matt Vincent on Twitter. Thank you, dude. Honestly.
Yeah, dude. I really enjoyed.
I sincerely
Appreciate
did.
it.
Well done.
Hold on, I gotta sing us out.
Oh boy, watch out.
Matt fucking Vincent came and sat here and talked to us about stuff. He's really buff and he throws stuff a long way. He has a giant culo from squatting. I hate Matt Vincent on Twitter and hate where is his clothing brand. It sounds pretty dope. He said there's no finish line and he's right about it. And he compared social media to fire. Yeah.
Well, we're so pleased to have Hydralyte back. Hydralyte is something that we and my family use just about every day, and it is simply the best oral rehydration product I have ever seen. And there are many reasons you should keep some around. I got the flu. I relied on Hydralyte because I knew it would rehydrate me the way an IV fluid would. We all have heard about the flus and the diarrheas, and they all knock you out. Staying well hydrated is critical to getting over these conditions. Even if you manage to avoid getting infected, your schedule is half as busy as mine. Getting 8 glasses of water a day isn't likely to happen. And you don't need it if you've got the proper hydration product, Hydralyte. That is the beauty. Whether you're sick or not, you can absolutely benefit from proper balance of sodium, glucose, and water. Hydralyte does this better than a sports drink or water alone. That's right, better. And it comes in great flavors like orange, berry, lemonade. It's available in a pre-mixed powder. My personal preference, little effervescent tablets. You can simply drop in a bottle of water or a glass of water, and you're done. You got it, and you are rehydrated. And compared to sports drinks, Hydralyte delivers up to 4 times the electrolytes with 75% less sugar. I know. Don't buy into the hype of the brands. Use Hydralyte. It's a better product. I'm telling you, I had intended to invent it. They got there first, so I'm all behind them. Hydralyte solutions are appropriate for all ages, and each bottle or package includes easy-to-follow dosing instructions. Order Hydralyte today at hydralyte.com/DRDREW. That is hydralyte.com/Dr. Drew. And for a limited time, our listeners can save 30% on Hydralyte. We actually buy in bulk in our family, so we're going to click through. Believe me, just click the banner on my site and use the code Dr. Drew 18. That is DRDREW 18.
Friends at Bergamet are back. It's, of course, a brand that's made an impact on us here. It makes a variety of supplements. They use the extract of the bergamot citrus fruit. It's full of polyphenols. It's a supplement that acts as a natural statin and may improve a number of cardiovascular conditions and fatty liver disease, as well as potentially high blood pressure and other things associated with the metabolic syndrome. Now the makers are bringing you a formulation called Bergamet Sport that provides all the same cardiovascular benefits, but with some additives designed to aid athletes and those with an active lifestyle. Bergamet Sport may help improve stamina as well as reduce recovery time and muscle inflammation. In an ongoing study, professional soccer players were asked to use Bergamet Sport, and the documented improvements have been impressive. I use the product. First Lady of Loves uses the product, the Bergamet Femme. Physicians and cardiologists around the world are recommending it. For a limited time, our listeners can save 10% on their order by entering the code DRDREW at checkout. That's Dr. Drew at checkout, all one word. To try Bergamet Sport for yourself, visit bergamet.com. That is BERGAMET.com. Or also you can click on the Bergamet banner at drdrew.com.
Be sure to talk to your physician before you use any Bergamet products. In fact, before you use any product or supplement, be sure to talk to your doctor.
Thanks for listening to Swole Patrol with Mike Catherwood and with myself, Dr. Drew Pinsky. You can follow us at Swole Patrol Pod, SWOLE Patrol Pod, on Twitter, and at Swole Patrol Podcast on Facebook. Subscribe to the show on iTunes or wherever you get your favorite podcast. And do not forget to head over to drdrew.com to find all the Playroom Pod shows. While you're there, please click through the links to support our sponsors. Supporting them helps us do these shows. So thanks again.